Hi, welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another FanHome Build the Batmobile. I am currently working on pack number 6, stages 21 through 26. Now, if you haven't done so already, head over to FanHome and subscribe to this build today. Do it while you can. It's a fantastic build, and I'm really having a blast building this. I cannot wait for the next pack to arrive. This one was a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another FanHome Build the Batmobile. I am currently working on pack number 6. Pack number 6, I received 6 phases or stages this time. 6 different parts packs with a bunch of parts, to be honest. Really looking forward to this. I've been waiting for this one this past month, and I was really looking forward to this. This has been a fun build so far. With this pack, of course, I received the 6 phases or stages. Each stage comes with a magazine, and here's one of the magazines here. Stage 21 or phase 21 as they go by in the book here. But wonderful articles here. They always give us a preview of the TV show, and it's kind of a season guide with these magazines. So this is season 1, episode 21. The Penguin Goes Straight. And then we do Great Batman Comics, and this is the 3 Jokers from 2020. And then Batman Year by Year. So this is Batman 58. Wonderful there. And then we get our step-by-step guide, and this time we're working on our right hand suspension. We worked on the left hand suspension in the last pack, so if you haven't seen that yet, head over there and watch that. I show you a lot more there than what I'll show you with this. I'm pretty much going to do a lot of this off camera and show you the outcome with it. So if you want to know how to do it, check out pack 5 where I showed you how to do the suspension. So this is step by step. It's really great. They have different colors going on here with the screws and such. They talk about pre-screwing in your screws ahead of time to get the threads started. I do recommend you use some 3-in-1 oil for your screws. It makes it a lot easier. So then that's how that works. Also in this pack, I did receive the binder holder, and that's this right here, and it will vary depending on where you're from. If you're over in Europe, you could be getting this earlier or later. In this case, I think we received this here in the US a little bit later than what they received this over in Europe. So it's very nice. I've already assembled it. Comes flat, and they give you some decals to number it. So that's what I did here already. So I'm ready to put all my magazines into this. That's great. I also received a free gift. Now remember, the free gifts can vary depending on when you get into your subscription. But this time I did receive the license plate. It's a metal license plate, as you can see. So that's going to get hung up in my new studio. I'm currently working on my new studio, and that should be complete here soon. Looks like there's a clear film on the outside of this. I'll peel that back before I hang it up on my wall. But there you go. And excuse the air conditioner in the background. I'm in the middle of summer here in southwest Arizona. Southern Arizona to be exact. We're about 110 degrees each day out here, so my air conditioner is on, and also my ceiling fan is running, so you might see a little reflection from the fan blades. So let's go ahead and look at the parts that came in this pack. Parts 21, phase 21 is our right hand suspension components. Parts 22, phase 22, looks like some components for our steering and one of the brake hubs. Phase 23 looks like the rim, the wheel. Phase 24 looks like a little bit of the rim and the tire. Phase 25, once again, working on the rim still with some parts here. And phase 26, the last phase for this pack, will be assembling the frame, the chassis frame. Let's get started. And before I begin with phase 21, I'll go ahead and show you what I've completed all the way up to phase 20. And this would be the engine that has been completed. I'm sure there's some other components that need to go on this, but that's what that looks like. And head over and check out the other stages. I did put a playlist link down below, so you can go to that playlist link for yourself and see how I did assemble these. I haven't modified anything on this as far as painting and all that. It's built bone stock. You can see I have some stuff taped up on the bottom here, the hoses and such, fuel hoses, fuel lines. And we did complete the left front suspension. We're going to work on the other side here next on 21. But this is true to the engine that was actually originally in the original 1966 Batmobile. Exactly like that, not painted as such. That's what the Mercury engine was back in the day. I explained that in my previous videos. Okay, and we did work on a little bit of the chassis here. But there you go. All right, let's get started on 21. Okay, I already showed you the magazine previously, so we're just going to go right into the build instructions. Here's the parts for our car. Of course, this is the right-hand front suspension. And we'll start off right off with the fitting the arm and ball joints, the upper arm assembly, tie that in on the chassis, shock absorber that is. And I'm going to fit the upper arm in place. Remember, we're using 3-in-1 oil throughout this, and finish that off right there. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 21. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. Everything here is made of metal, and they do identify as right side. You have an R on them. Great finish on this, matte finish. Of course, the spring there and parts for the shock. AM, AIM, EM, WM, and CM screws. First thing we're going to do in this phase is fit the ball joints to the steering spindle arm, and this is the steering spindle arm right here. We're going to put the ball joint on right here and right here. The shorter ball joint goes on this one, and the longer one goes on that one. And you can see the difference in those ball joints, the shorter one and the longer one. I'm not going to show you driving the screws in this, but before I begin, I'm going to go ahead and show you the screwdrivers I use. So I do use the Wera screwdrivers, and this is the PHO screwdriver. It is a little smaller, and I also use, for a little more bite with the screws, I use a PH1 screwdriver. It's a little larger, and this works very nice. I'm also going to use some 3-in-1 oil to help me along with this. I'll be right back. Okay, the ball joints are installed. I used WM screws, 2 of them, and you can see the longer one is on the bottom and the shorter one is on top. I did leave them loose, but that's what that looks like there. Next, we're going to assemble the upper arm. We have this part here and this part here, and they're simply going to go together just like that. And 2 CM screws is going to go into that. And there they are installed, the 2 CM screws. Now we're going to take our upper arm and we're going to assemble that just like that, and we're going to put in 2 EM screws on each side. 1 EM screw is installed on each side, and you want to leave them a little loose so you have rotation of your parts, just like so. Next, I inserted the spring between the lower arm and the suspension, and after the spring was installed, I installed the shock shaft, this right here. I drove it through all the way to the top. I put an AIM screw in on top to hold the shock shaft in place, and I also put in 2 AM screws on the bottom here to hold that shock shaft in place. Very simple process. Take your time with it. The key is to put the spring in first and then put the shaft through to hold the spring in place. I actually started the 2 screws on the bottom to hold the shock shaft in place, and then I lined up the top of the shaft to the hole here, and I put the AIM screw in on top. I did use 3-in-1 oil to do that. Next, I installed the steering spindle into the lower arm, making sure that the steering spindle steering mechanism is towards the back of the car. I put another AIM screw in on it. I also lubricated that pivot point with some Vaseline, so you can see how that looks. And you can see the screw on that AIM screw. It is a flange screw, and that's how that looks. You want to leave it a little bit loose. You don't want to over tighten it. Next, you're going to want to take your upper arm that we assembled in the previous steps, and you want it to look just like this. It's going to mount to this point here, right here, and on your steering spindle right there. Okay, I have all the screws started. I put 2 CM screws up here, and they are started. They're not tightened down yet. And I put an AIM screw in right here on top of the spindle. And make sure you drive it straight down. It's very easy to drive it down crooked, so make sure it's straight down. Now that all 3 are installed, I'll go ahead and tighten these down. When tightening down these screws, support your chassis with your hand off your mat, off your work mat, because the engine does mount lower than the chassis, and you don't want to break any components off the engine or any of the mounts. So support the bottom of the chassis while you're putting your screws in. All the screws are tight, and I did leave this screw on the spindle a little bit loose so I can still turn the spindle for steering. And that's all I do with phase 21. Very easy to do. Just follow my tips and you'll have no problems. Let's head over and get started on phase 22. Let's look at the magazine and the build instructions for phase 22. Real quick here. TV series here. We're still on season 1, episode 22. Not yet, he ain't. Next we have great Batman comics. This time it's Broken City from the year 2003 and 4. Batman Year by Year. Batman 59. Get right into the step-by-step instructions here. This time we're going to work on the steering system. We have all the steering components over here on the right. Here's a close-up of phase 22. And we're going to begin with building the steering mechanism. Looks pretty easy. Idler and pitman arms. And fitting the steering mechanism itself to the chassis, to the steering, actually the spindles left and right. Getting that all going. fitting the front left wheel, we're going to put the front of the brake on the wheel itself, and then the back of the brake, we're going to put the brake line on it. We're going to take that down below, and we're going to put that onto the spindle, screw that down. Then we're going to fit the wheel and tire to the front spindle and install the hubcap onto that. And that'll be our result. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for phase 22. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. All the steering components are made of metal, 2 pitman arms, and the rods themselves. The brake assemblies are all plastic. We have a plastic washer, the brake line, AM, AIM screw, CM screw, FM screw, and UM screw. Bring over our track rod and the pitman arms. Pitman arms are marked with an R and an L, and they're simply going to mount down on top of the track bar like that. We're going to put 2 UM screws into that. Got the pitman arms installed with the UM screws, and you can go ahead and tighten those down as tight as you want because they bottom out on the pitman arm and they still rotate. Okay, we're going to secure the left and right tie rods onto our track bar. Track bar is going to be positioned on the left side. We're going to use a left tie rod, and then the right one, use the right tie rod. They're going to go down on the track arm, and it says AM screw, but if you look at when it's written out, you're going to use AIM screws. AIM screws are the flange screws, so don't use the AM screws. This is incorrect here. And you can see left side, right side, left arm, right arm is inserted. I'm going to put those AIM screws into here. And there you go, both rods are installed with the AIM screws here. Right there and right there. This is the right side and this is the left side. Now we've fitted the steering mechanism onto our spindles. This is the right side. Remember, when you're looking at it upside down, this is the right side over here and this is the left side over here. So you want to make sure you put those in correctly. It says left and right. Put in your AIM screws onto your spindles on each side. And now lastly, we're going to take our pitman arm and we're going to mount that to the chassis right there. And that's going to take a CM screw. Alright, the CM screw is installed. Don't over tighten it, so that way everything still turns. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the front left wheel, and this is the wheel we received in phase 2. We'll go ahead and mount the front of the brake assembly onto this, and it only goes on one way. 2 AM screws go into this. And that's how that looks there. Now we'll work on our brake assembly. And our brake hose is going to mount to the drum on the brake here. There's a tab that it goes down on. Just like that. Now we're going to mount this to the chassis. Before we get started on mounting the wheel and tire onto the spindle here, probably a good idea to go ahead and get your threads started with your FM screw. So I put a little 3-1 oil on the threads and screw straight down and get the threads started. Good there, and back it out. Bring over our brake assembly and make sure our brake line is towards the back, and we want it to mount right on those two tabs that are on the spindle. With the large brake adjuster on the bottom on those tabs. Bring over our wheel assembly, wheel and tire. Insert that there. Bring over our little plastic washer. That's going to go inside. And our FM screw next. There we go. That's good. And lastly, we can put our hubcap on. And there we go. Okay. And there you go. There's our wheel and tire installed. Remember that our hubcap came in pack 2. And that's what that looks like. It looks great. That's all I do with phase 22. Let's head over and do phase 23. Let's look at the magazine and the build instructions for phase 23. Start off with the TV show, The Ring of Wax, Season 1, Episode 23. Batman Comics, Batman vs. the Vampire, 1939. Year by year of Batman Comics, Batman 60. And our parts here. We get our pieces for the wheel, which we've done that before. And that's what we'll do. We'll assemble those two pieces together. That's all we have. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Parts for 23. Let's get a closer look. This is our right front wheel. This is metal here and the chrome on that. And this is simply just going to go down just on top, just like that. And that's all we do with phase 23. Let's head over and do phase 24. Let's look at the magazine and build instructions for phase 24. The TV show here, Season 1, Episode 24, Give 'em the Axe. Batman Comics from 1969, Punish Not My Evil Son. Batman Year by Year, this is Batman 60. And of course we have our parts here. We're going to get our tire and the part of our rim there. And there's the parts. And we're just going to put our tire on the rim here. Put our inner sleeve there. Line up our screw holes. Put 5 CP screws into that. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Here's parts for 24. Let's get a closer look. CP screws. Here's our inner rim made of metal and our tire. First we're going to do is we're going to mount this to the outer rim just like that. We'll take our inner rim, we're going to line that up with the screw holes. And 5 CP screws go into that. And all 5 CP screws are tight. And that's how that looks. That's all I do with phase 24. Let's head over and do phase 25. Let's look at the magazine and build instructions for Phase 25. TV show, Season 1, Episode 25, The Joker Trumps an Ace. And great Batman comics from 1999 to 2000, Dark Victory. Batman 61 for Batman year by year. My favorite year, 61. I think you can figure that out. And our car parts. Here's our parts for Phase 25. Did this once before. Install our brake line. Install the backing plate and brake line onto the chassis on the right side. Put the outer brake assembly on the wheel. Install the wheel just like we did before. And put our hubcap on. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for Phase 25. Let's get a closer look. Here's our brake parts. They're made of plastic. Brake line, our Batman center cap, FM and AM screws. Alright, everything's ready to go. We'll put our hubcap together. That just slides on top of that. Just like that, snaps in place. We'll put that aside. We'll go ahead and put our brake hub on. We want to have our brake line towards the back, towards the rear. Line up our two screw holes, just like we did before. Making sure that our brake adjuster is on the bottom. And you can see that. Brake adjuster is on the bottom. We put our backing plate on, our brake. We put in two AM screws into that. And mount that down on the shaft. Put our washer into that, our plastic washer, like we did before. FM screw goes into that. I pre-started the threads just like I did before. Tighten that down. Good. And it spins. And we put our cap on. Looks good. And that completes Phase 25. It looks great. Everything's ready to rock and roll here on the front end. We have both wheel and tires installed, as you can see. Very nice. Let's head over and do the final phase for Pack 6, Phase 26. Let's look at Phase 26, which is the final phase for Pack 6. TV show, Season 1, Episode 26, Batman Sets the Pace. Batman Comics, Son of a Demon, year 1987. Batman year by year, Batman 62. And the parts here. And this is where we're going to start on the chassis here, the chassis frame. Here's the parts for that. Looks like we're going to put those two frame pieces together with CM screws. Then we're going to fit those pieces to the front of the Y frame that we assembled earlier, using CM screws once again. And that's all I'll do. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. And here's those parts for 26. Let's get a closer look. Here's those two parts of the frame. Of course, made of metal. Very nice. And CM screws. And these two frame pieces are going to go together just like that. It's going to mount down just on top. Two CM screws go into this. Get them both started first, then tighten them down. And that's how that looks. Now we're going to mount this to the Y-frame on the chassis. And locate our Y-frame here. We're going to mount it to the left side of the frame. And just simply just going to mount down on these two slots. Just like that. And 2 more CM screws are going to go into that. And there you go. Both CM screws are in and tight. It looks great. That's all I do with phase 26. Looks great. I'll be right back. And that completes pack 6. As you can see, we have a lot accomplished here. We put both front tires on. Looks great. And we have the frame installed on the left side. Looks great. I hope you enjoyed this build so far as much as I do. This is fantastic. I cannot wait for the next 6 phases to come. Do me a favor, head over to FanHome and subscribe to this today. You do not want to pass this up. And as you know, these aren't out there all the time, and it's a fantastic build. I put a direct link in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. It helps with the algorithms, so be sure you smash that like button. With that, until pack number 7 arrives, take care everybody, and happy modeling.